Hey, John Beatty here. Welcome back. I'm here to help you transform your marriage one step at a time. Today, I want to talk to you about personality. Many of you have experienced personality conflicts, and personality conflicts in a marriage can cause a lot of trouble. So the question then comes, is there a perfect personality for a satisfying marriage? Well, I want to answer that question for you today, but before I get to that, here's something to take a look at that's pretty interesting. It's a story about the Jim twins. It's a true story. Now, the Jim twins were identical twins. They were separated at birth, and they were reunited 39 years later. The amazing thing about it is that when they were reunited and they talked to each other, they discovered that they both had childhood dogs named Toy. Both of them had proclivities for math and woodworking, and they were poor at spelling. Get this, both were married twice, and their first wives were both named Linda. Their second wives were both named Betty, and they each named their sons James Allen and James Allen, just with different spelling on the middle name. And each of them drove a Chevy. One was a security guard, the other a deputy sheriff. And both of them vacationed at the same Florida beach. So how could this be? Well, the interesting thing is that scientists have studied things like this and have discovered something that's pretty remarkable. The researcher Robert Plomin, who wrote the book Blueprint: How DNA Makes Us Who We Are, discovered in looking at 30 years of research on identical twins that personality traits are 50% hereditary. They are the single greatest influence on why we act the way we do. The expression of genetic traits is influenced by our environment, but our environmental influence is strongly influenced by our genetic traits. You've probably heard of the Myers-Briggs personality inventory, and there are many other personality tests that a person can take to discover their personality traits. But when scientists look at personality traits, they use the 5-factor model. Look at this. The 5-factor model is a standard of personality trait research that has been in place for 30 years. It's been scientifically validated across cultures. It's based on observable behaviors and the words people use to describe those behaviors. There are 5 categories of personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So what are these 5 personality traits? What do they mean? What are the definitions of them? Openness is characterized by being open-minded, having an interest in art, being emotional, adventurous, appreciating new ideas, and being curious. People who are conscientious are typically self-disciplined, results-oriented, and structured, traditional and dutiful. Extroversion is characterized by a high energy level. People who like people. People who are stimulated by being with others. Agreeableness is characterized by being compassionate, cooperative, forgiving, pragmatic. Neuroticism is characterized by being sensible, vulnerable, and in the extreme, emotionally unstable. So the personality traits are measured on a continuum, on a bell curve. So take a look at this. Most people are very similar in their personality traits. They don't differ too much from one another. But there are people who are on the extremes. So you can have people who are very closed to experience on one hand, and on the other hand, you can have people who are very open to new experiences. You probably know people like that. Perhaps you're married to someone who is either closed to experience or more open to experience. The same is true with conscientiousness. You can have people who are more conscientious, people who are less conscientious, people who are more extroverted, people who are less extroverted, people who are disagreeable, people who are agreeable, and then people who are more emotionally stable or less emotionally stable. So what does this mean for marriage? Is there a perfect personality trait for a satisfying marriage? Well, the answer to that is not as simple as it may seem. I would put it like this. The personality traits that you have are your best chance of having a satisfying marriage. What do I mean by that? Personality traits change very little over somebody's lifetime. So if you're somebody, for example, who tends to be more disagreeable, you're going to be mostly disagreeable most of your life. And you're going to be able to change that very little. If you're somebody that's highly agreeable, that's not going to change much throughout your lifetime. That's just the way it is. These are heritable traits, meaning that it's hardwired into who you are. But it doesn't mean that you have to have an unsatisfying marriage just because you're disagreeable and maybe you're married to somebody who's a more disagreeable person. But what can you do about that? Well, I want you to come back and watch my next video, and I'll go into more detail about how the personality traits that you have can be used to help you build a more satisfying marriage and how your marriage can be transformed one step at a time. Remember to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, and you'll get a notice next time I post a video on this topic. See you next time.